So, Michael, you were saying, what's the
I,
Lord speaking to you?
I want to say first and foremost, amazing teaching, amazing, amazing. I knew about tithing, but to know this much context about tithing, no, never have known. So thank you for this teaching. I want to bring up something that you said. It's
You're welcome.
when it came to money, is like, are you good in the sight of God? Are you rich in the sight of God? And I love that. Like you and me and we all, all of us in different stages of life, and the economy is this and this is that. So we're trying to save up money and stack up money and put this in this investment and all these things. And yet, are you rich in the sight of God? And you said it when it comes to Israel and things that are happening in the world. It's like it's sad, but it's also so interesting to see the Bible play out. We know God's word is true, but to also to see it unfold, it's now more than ever, it is about getting in the right side of God. It is now is not the time to fall asleep spiritually. So when it comes to tithing, yes, tithe, but like what Jesus said, but what's more important, are you in right standing with God right now? You know,
Mm.
God,
Yeah.
he said it in Samuel, do not look at their outward appearance, but I look at the heart. You could give 1 million. You could give 10. You could give one, but it's all about the heart that you give with. I think that right there was really amazing.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, that's especially being a college student, there a lot of college students said, "Well, I don't have money coming in." One of the things that I tell my clients that are if they're deep in debt, that and they're trying to get out of debt, and they're you know financially strapped, and you know I ask them, are you if you're not giving money, are you giving at least 4 hours? If you're working 40 hours, you need to be giving at least 4 hours to your church. Are you doing that? And then they're like, no. I'm like, yeah, or try to get a second job,
Mhm.
so that you can give. It's so important. And and hopefully Donald can help address this question. If God owns all the money, then why are we tithing? If it's all His
Well,
money.
my question, can y'all hear me?
I can hear you, man.
Okay. You said give 4 hours to your church. My question to you is, are we to give 4 hours to our church or give 4 hours back unto the Lord?
Yeah, good point.
And
Unto the Lord.
because that's what he's talking about. He's talked about his storehouse, God's storehouse. Um, what's God's storehouse? The last time I read was the earth. This is where he stored everything here for us, everything. So this has been something that's been on my heart for some time that I struggled with, and the Holy Spirit led me to some clarity in that area about tithes and offerings. It's a matter of the heart. I say it's not what we have, but what we allow to have us. And He owns everything. So if we see a brother and sister in need, and it's on our heart to give it to them to help them help themselves, then we're giving unto God with a loving heart. So the Jewish standard was a good standard, but it was always underneath the law that you have to, you have to, you have to. And Christ is saying, you want to, you want to, you want to. And as we give, and there was a time when, I was given um, uh, resources, and the Holy Spirit says, are those people taking the money that you're sending to them, and are you planting those seeds in fertile ground? And are they about my business or about their business? And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, well, why don't you? I mean, aren't you going to invest in knowing what they do with the money? Or are you just going to give it blindly? Or are you going to do it out of love and put in fertile ground? It's not in steeples, and it's not in pews, and it's not in buildings. It's in the people. So, granted, yet if we attend a place that we worship and come together in the body of believers, and they call it a church, he says where two or more gathered together, we have a church. So, am I supposed to be so legalistic just to put my money in some place instead of some people? And you say, well, Brother Don, what are you rambling about? I said, well, it's a matter of the heart. It's a matter of the heart. I mean, if you come out there and there's somebody that needs to have their tire changed and they can't change it, and you spend an hour or so there out of love, are you tithing? But if you even give them gas and they need gas and they're out of gas and you change the tire, then you give them an offering. But if it's not a place of love, then it's just horns and cymbals. I'll stop there. I'll stop.
No, that's you brought up multiple different points. You brought up the aspect that there's tithe and then there's offering. Offering is above the 10%. You brought up the point that the money is designed to invest in people. You're called to invest in people. And I think a lot of people forget that point, that the tithe is for storing up people. That's the only thing that you can store up in heaven is
Amen.
people. And so your money and your time, your resources should be invested in reaching people. And if you, for those who have a challenge with people but have the ability to make lots of money, they, what do I mean by that is, the super shy person, extremely intelligent, but just very, very shy. It's not that they hate people. It's not that they, it's just, it's just going up to strangers and ministering to them, that they just don't have that gifting. And so they deploy their resources. They hire other people to help do that for them. But the problem is, I think in America is that we hire the pastor to do the work that we are called to do, and that we try to outsource it all. And yet we are called to actually go out and do that ministering too. So, yeah, so you hit on a whole bunch of different points. And I think, and I want Michael to talk a little bit about this too, because we were talking yesterday about it. But, part of our tithe is giving of the tithe is to break bondage, to break this curse. You cannot serve both God and Mammon. And that word is a deity. A lot of people don't understand that. In the culture which Jesus was teaching in, there was a deity that's the God of riches and wealth and prosperity, and that was that's what a lot of people worship. They want the God that's going to take care of them and give them lots of money and lots of financial fortune. It's the God of fortune. And Jesus put it quite clear: you cannot serve Yahweh and your way at the same time, unless your way becomes God's way instead of God's way becoming, well, let's see, make sure I'm saying that right. You want the will of the Lord to flow through you instead of you trying to get your will to flow through God. It's totally different. So, Michael, you and I were talking about this yesterday about the breaking the curse.
Yeah, and it was really, really powerful because tithing is a test, yes, but it is also something that sets you free. Making money and paying bills in my life, I was my most stressed or anxious about money when I didn't tithe because it was mine, because it was my responsibility, because I had to do these things. I had to take care of this. And it was my mindset was, God, I want to, but trusting in the building of my account rather than the one who supplied my account. God, I don't want to tithe. God, you know my heart. You know I want to do this, but I got this. I got to take care of this. Take care of. And when you do that, you're trusting in yourself. You're relying on yourself, and you're relying on your account. The number in your account, it dictates how confident you are, or how good or bad you trust. So when you tithe, when you get rid of that money, you are saying to God, "Hey, I trust you more. I love you more. There's nothing above you. This resource you provided. There's so many things spiritually
Amen.
that you say when you tithe,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
when I tithe, when I give that money. I'm in college now. I'm not making tons and tons of money, but I still give it away. I don't. And when you tithe, I don't think about money. I mentally don't really think about it. I obviously be prudent, be wise, but besides being wise with my money, I don't think about it. I'm not stressed about it. It's not on my mind 24/7 versus when I wasn't, those were my reactions and those were my responses. So tithing is, like Dustin said, it is a release of the bondage of money. It is a release from the responsibility of money. God, I made this money. I got these bills. I have to pay this. Lord, no. Before I'm going to give you, Lord, the pre-tax amount, the big amount before Social Security, before whatever. I'm going to give you that huge amount just so that I'm not bound by anything. Paul says we are not under the law, but not everything is good for you. Anything in your life that is taking the place of God or has you bound is not good for you, even financials. So you tithing is you releasing and or relieving yourself of this responsibility to provide. Yes, you have a job. Yes, you're making money. The Bible does say men should work. A man who does not work, he does not deserve to eat. So the Bible is really, really stern on working. God isn't against the work, but God is against you keeping those things for yourself because He cares for us. It reminds me of this.
Um,
It reminds me of this. Jesus said, "The Sabbath was built for man, not the man for Sabbath." You know what I mean?
mm,
The 10%. And almost in a way, I question, was it made for us, for our good, for our benefit, to serve others, but to also mentally serve ourselves? You don't, and it's so, we're so human and we don't think about it this way, but you stress about it less or you have no anxiety about it when you give it away. But it's only when you hoard it that you have anxiety. But as humans, we think the opposite. No, I'm going to have the less anxiety. I'm not going to have that much anxiety about my money if I'm keeping all of it. I'm gonna keep the 10%. I'll pay taxes. I'll pay Social Security, but I'll keep the rest for myself. And we think that's the solution to not having anxiety or stress, but it's not. It's the opposite. When you give it away, when you give it away freely, when you have
yeah.
it built in your brain, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
God, this belongs to you. There's no anxiety. There's no stress. And it's even, I want to tie this into something that Dustin, you said. It was really powerful to me. God said, prove me, test me. I will provide. Test me and say I won't. Let me prove it to you. I'll provide. But how will you know if He'll provide or not if you're hoarding everything that you have. You'll never know God is provider. You are your own provider. You provide everything for you. So for God to say, test me and see that I won't do this for you. I love it. There are certain times in the Bible when God talks, and he just talks a certain way. And I'm like, yes, God. You know what? You are that guy. He just let me prove it to you. Let me show you that I'm a provider. You doubt me? Fine. I get that. You're human. Let me show you who I am. When he's speaking like that, prove me. Let me prove it to you that I'm a provider. Give me this 10%. See what I do with this 10. See what I do with this little. It belonged to me anyway. I made it. So I just love what tithing does for us humans mentally and physically and spiritually. The releasing of the responsibility or bondage, but I also love God in this. Let me show you what I will do. So that releasing of bondage and allowing God to be provider.
Yeah, Michael, yeah, and Donald, you can hear it too. I mean, he's able to articulate what I'd love to say in my own words. So yes. Any thoughts on that, Donald?
Hallelujah.
That's
Hallelujah. Oh, those words are coming right from your heart, brother, and the Holy Spirit just flowing through you. And when you're a willing vessel to articulate what's on your heart, and it's like you say, it's all about release. Release. You know, get out from under bondage. You know, have a joyful heart. And, you know, and when you release it, it has no hooks attached to it. You know, you freely give as freely receive. And this, you know, and you can't outgive God because He is everything. And if He's everything to us, then there's nothing that we lack. You know, it's all a matter of the heart. Everything goes back to the heart. You know, it's Dustin, you said earlier about a lot of people being strapped, and that just resonated in my spirit. Strapped. They're strapping themselves. They're beating themselves. You know, they put themselves in this bondage, and He's the only one that lets us loose. He's the only one that can let us loose from this this place that we've placed us in. And He wants all things. He's a loving and giving and a caring Father. And He cares about everything that touches me. I know it touches Him. And He's concerned about that. So that was, brother, I just received the love, the outpouring, the passion, the compassion that the Holy Spirit is residing in you and to Brother Dustin and myself, that He's bringing his family together in one mind and one accord, and it's all go back to love. And so as we freely receive, we freely give, because a gift is not a gift until it's given away. So hallelujah.
I love how you brought up the fact that I talked about people who are financially strapped or financially in bondage, because the reality is that the tithe is designed to help break the bondage. You know, it's designed to help break that bondage. So
Absolutely. I mean, here people said, you know, a lot of people, if you listen to what some people say, you know sometimes what's coming from their heart. And they said, you know, there's two things in life: is death and taxes. You know, I've always heard that, death and taxes. Well, that's that what a joyous thing to look forward to.
Right.
you know, and if you dwell on death, then you're not embracing the life. And if all you're concerned about is taxes, then you are missing the joy that he's brought you. Because he passed it off. He said, "Render unto Caesar, okay, whatever is governmental regulated, give unto him, and give unto God what's God's." And it's kind of tongue in cheek because everything is God's. And he does so much more with a willing and a caring and a loving heart than he'll do with anything else. Because if we do it, Brother Dustin, that you and I was blessed to go to a restaurant and help a young man out of love, to help him and his family. Well, we can do that wherever the Holy Spirit leads on a daily basis. It may not in monetary things, but a kind word, a kind gesture, a kind deed in his name doesn't go unnoticed. These are the things that he stores up in heaven, and it's that willingness of love. To me, and Brother Dustin's heard me say that, to me, love is an action verb. It's not a noun or pronoun or an adjective. Don't tell me you love me. Show me. And this is all about showing God's love in and to and through us, that he receives the glory.
Yeah, I love it's tithe and offerings, and I love the fact that part of our revenue that we put aside is to buy books, to give out God's word to people, and part of our revenue is to, when we go out to eat, is to give a tip far and above that they would have ever asked or imagined, so.
I think it's really important. I said it, but I want to dive deeper into it. What if, rapture happens, we all go up and we're with God, and someone asked the question, he said, "God, why did you want us to tithe 10%? And he said, "Well, I just didn't want you to be bound by anything." And it's, Donald, you said it, like knowing the heart of God, right? Knowing God is full of love, and he wants my best interest at heart. You know what I mean? It's so hard to fathom that God loves us so much. What if the whole reason for the tithe was to keep us boundless, to set us free from the expectation and the responsibility of providing for ourselves? Just like the Sabbath. God, why'd you rest the seventh day, the sixth? Well, I just wanted you guys to see. I just wanted you guys to rest, because I know, if I didn't, you guys would be workaholics. I want you to rest. God, why did you send your son? Well, for you, for you, for you, for you, for you. I imagine we could question God all day about why he did this, why he did that. And I think his common response is going to be, for you. Well, I did that for you. I did this for you. This is for your benefit. So, God, why did you want us to tithe? For you, for your benefit, so that I could bless you, so that you could be free, so that we would be connected in all areas of life. It's really, really important. I'm reading through Joshua, and I'm almost done with it. I only have 2 more chapters, but every battle that included God, they won easily, quite easily, quite easily. The only time they lost was when they didn't include God. The only time they were deceived, God was not a part of the equation. So what if all we need is God's presence in every area of life to be prosperous? And someone said lack. And this Sunday, our preacher was preaching on lack. And how much of our sin do we commit based off the idea of lack, the false perspective of lack. If you were to sit down and really think about it, you don't really lack anything. He was preaching on it, and I was sitting in there, like God, what do I truly lack right now? You know, what is it in my life that I truly do not have? And I couldn't think of anything. I couldn't think. Well, I don't. Well, no, I have that. Then I don't really need that anyway. So when you really sit down and think about it, we lack nothing. But it is the false perception or this idea, this false idea of that we don't have, and that will create us and create this idea in us to sin, right? Adam and Eve didn't lack anything but one tree. And it was because of their lack they sinned. And the preacher, he was really, really funny. He said, the Bible, everything is intentional. There was a reason why that tree was in the middle, meaning they had to walk past every single tree, pecans, grapes, apples, oranges, the vines, they had to walk past the deers, the lions. They had to walk past everything to get to that tree because they thought that they lacked something. And when you say lack, it reminds me of David. When David was confronted with his sin, what did God say to him? And this is really powerful. He said, I had given you the kingship. I'm paraphrasing. I've given you the kingship. I had given you the kingdom. I had given you all the wives of Saul. And this is the part. He said, if that was not enough, I would have given you more. That right there is powerful. If that wasn't enough for you, I would have given you more. What is God saying? David, why? What did you lack? Nothing. I had given you everything. And if you weren't satisfied, you know what? That's fine. I would have given you more. So how does this tie into tithing? You know, why do we not tithe? Because we think we lack. Well, I don't want to give 10% because I need 10%. I need all mines. I need everything. Everything that and it's that hustle culture in America. Everything that I earn, I need it. Do you really? Do you truly lack? And if you do lack, what did he say to David? If you had lacked something in any area, I would have given you more. You don't lack anything. God asking you for 10% isn't to create lack. You lack nothing. My joy is in the Lord. My peace is in the Lord. Spiritually, you lack nothing. In this world, God cares about you and loves you enough to provide all that you want or desire, above what we can ask or think. So people's main excuse, tithing, I'm not going to do it. I need it. Oh, I forgot. And this is, I'm speaking to myself because I've said all these things at one point. I forgot, God. I'll do it next time. I'm sorry, God. I just needed this money right now for this situation. You lack nothing. And if you did lack something, I would have given you more. And that shakes me. Because I what is it that God can't do for me that I can't give him 10% of my money? What is it that God can't provide that I don't trust him enough to provide or come through for me? You don't think if David said something to God about Bathsheba, you don't think if David had just mentioned something to God, he would have made a way somehow, some way? I would have given you more if that wasn't enough. What do you really lack? And don't let your lack allow you to walk in sin.
Wow. That lack causes lust. That lack causes lust.
Come on.
Yeah. You said you're reading through Joshua. All throughout the scriptures, you see the principle of the tithe. What was the first city that they came to that did God say, well, God said, commit it to destruction, meaning this is a burnt offering. This is to be given unto the Lord, completely unto the Lord. It was the principle of the tithe. That's what Jericho represented. It's the first fruits. The first, when the season comes out, the first fruit that comes in blossom, you're to dedicate that unto the Lord. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Michael, but I believe when they went to Jericho, some of the people lusted and kept some of the things for themselves, and they were supposed to dedicate it all to the Lord. And what happened to those individuals?
It was one man who sinned and took an accursed item. I did the research on this because it was a deep study. He took enough things that were valued today at like $25,000. So that's the equivalent. All the things that he stole was equivalent to around $25,000 today. And it was only one man who sinned. And like I said, they did not go to God about it. If Joshua had went to God and said, okay, God, we're going to go to the next town, God would have said, hold up. No, you're not. And this man's name meant troublemaker. His name meant trouble. So once they found this man, they stoned him and his entire family. He took the accursed items. It was gold, silver, brass, some rugs and stuff like that, and he buried it underneath his stuff. So when they went to the Battle of Ai, which is strategically the next town, they lost, all because of one man's sin.
Yeah. So when we hold back from the Lord, we not only hurt ourselves, but we hurt the others around us. Yeah, that's the principle of the tithe. The tithe is to take the curse off of your family, take the curse off of your money. It's about giving it back to the Lord and realizing that you're not giving anything to the Lord, because the Lord, it's all the Lord's anyways. It's for you. It's kind of like the Sabbath is for you. It's not for the Lord, it's for you. And people don't understand that. One of the most selfish things you can do is to have a Sabbath. One of the selfish things that you can do is give 10% to the Lord, because it is a blessing for you to do that. And so it's a good kind of selfish. And when I say that, selfish is always got this negative connotation, but there is a blessing that comes to you when you do what the Lord has asked you to do, because what he asked you to do is to be a blessing for you. So I think a lot of people forget that, but you see the tithe is a test. That tree in the middle was a test. It was just a small percentage of the whole garden. It was just that little tiny bit. The 12 tribes of Israel. God redeems one of the tribes and says those are the Levites. That's, it's roughly about 10%. He's redeemed it. He says, no, this one is my tribe. This is mine. This is the rest of them get the inheritance of the land, but the other ones, these are my ministers. It's that 10%. You see it all throughout echoing. You even see it in Christ. It says Christ is the first fruits. He is, it says in 1 Corinthians 15:23, Christ, the first fruits. Colossians 1:15, Christ, the firstborn of all creation. The Lord gave Christ like a tithe, and he gave it not because we were perfect, not because we had it all together. It says that he gave it, Romans 5:8. God demonstrated his love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. It's like tithing. God didn't wait for us to clean up before he gave his son. He gave his son while we were still sinners. It's kind of like tithing. We give our tithe while we don't have enough. when you give your first fruits, when you give the first fruits of your, if you had a garden and the first fruits you see, you dedicate those unto the Lord. You don't know if you're going to get any more fruit. You don't know if any more is coming. And so it's an act of faith when you give away the first fruit. When you give, as soon as you get the money in, you put it aside. And and we're going to talk about this next week because we ran out of time this week. But there are strategies in which you can give immediately away. Well, I don't know where God's telling me to give this money to, because as Donald put it, it doesn't necessarily always mean a building or a place. It's where the Lord chooses to give that money. That's the key, is that not that you decide, but it's the Holy Spirit speaking into you. Where are you supposed to give? And bring in the whole tithe into the storehouse. And so we're going to talk about that next week, about strategies on giving, so that you can, even tax strategies, ways that you can avoid overpaying, and the ways that you can save money on your taxes using gifting strategies. And so I'm going to stop the video for right now, but I appreciate all y'all's input. I think it was extremely valuable what we shared, and just know that I am blessed to be a part of y'all's lives, and I appreciate everything you said.